Hello and welcome. Happy Sunday. I want to make sure you guys can hear me and see me okay. I'm going to check on my phone to make sure that, okay, everything looks good. I want to make sure I can hear too. So if you could post in the chat and let me know you're here, let me know you can hear me, let me know you can see me. If you're hearing any noise in the background, excuse me, it's because my husband is packing. Yes. Okay, great. So, my husband is packing. We are moving soon in about 6 weeks, and I'm very, very excited about it, and I think he is too. And he has just been packing a ton of stuff around the house lately, which is so incredibly helpful. And yeah, so if you hear any noise in the background, that's what that is. Let me know you're here. Let me know about you and your pets. Go ahead and post in the chat section, and I will do my best to respond. Actually, I do pretty well to respond to everybody if you're watching this live. And if you happen to be watching this replay after the live, welcome to you too. Post in the comments. Let me know you're here. Let me know why you're here, why you clicked on this video. I'd love to learn more about you and your pets. So, excuse me. Let me get a little drink of water. Okay. So today we're talking about, hey monkey, you itchy? You itchy? We're talking about products, a very specific set of products that you, in my opinion, should not be using on your dog. So a few weeks ago, it was probably a month or so ago, we did a live about alternatives to traditional flea and tick medications. And very recently, a new study came out on Fipronil, which is one of the most popular insecticides used in flea and tick medications. And you know what? Hang on one second, guys. Let me shut this door real quick. 1 second. Okay. So, I thought it would be wise. Let me scrunch myself back up in here. Okay, I thought it would be wise to do a follow-up video on more of the reasons why we don't want to use these traditional flea and tick medications. And so I put together, okay, if you follow me on Patreon, you got the post this morning. Everything that I'm going to talk about in today's video and some is on Patreon, and it's already there waiting for you. If you go ahead and join now, you will get access to it. The link is in the description, as well as everything else. The whole library, everything I've posted on Patreon, and there is a ton of great stuff in there. And today's post, which covers, like I said, everything we're talking about today's video and some, has a ton of links in it. So you can start doing your own research, because that's the point. Like, the reason I bring these topics up to you guys, I have educational videos, and most of my videos are pretty educational, I think, but it really is to set you guys up for success in figuring things out on your own and doing your own research. And because I can't tell you, like, you need to be caring for the animal, the dog or the cat that's in front of you. And the dog or cat that is in front of you is not the same dog or cat that's in front of me. So while there are some very, general, this is bad, this is good, we have to make decisions based on what is best for the pet sitting in front of us. So I really always recommend you doing as much research as you can, and it's my job to bring you as much information as I can to set you off on that right path. So again, let me know you're here. Let me know about you and your pets. Maybe if you're using flea and tick medications, you could post about that in the chat. If you have another question about your pets, you can post that as well, and I will get to that closer to the end of the video. So, sorry guys, I don't know what's going on with my throat today. Allergies maybe. So So, like I said, it was, I don't know, probably a month or so ago, we did a live where I went over some alternatives to using traditional flea and tick medications. And this past week, Rodney Habib of Planet Paws, who is pretty darn famous in his own right, he did a video that explained a little bit about a study, a peer-reviewed study that recently came out in a science magazine. I don't remember exactly. In fact, let me click on it, and I'll tell you maybe what magazine. Elsevier. Oh, okay. So it came out in the Pesticide Biochemistry and Physiology, volume 175, June 2021. So that's where this study was published. Excuse me. Okay, we'll get over this. The study is titled The Effects of Fipronil on Emotional and Cognitive Behaviors in Animals. So as I was saying, fipronil is one of the most popular insecticides that's used in, it's used in a lot of stuff, but it's used in traditional flea and tick medications that you get from your veterinarian. And I have put a list together. So some of the most popular flea and tick medications that use fipronil are Frontline, Barricade, Easy Spot, Effapro, Sentry, Fiprigard, Parastar, Pet Armor, Pronil OTC, and SpectraSure. Now that's not a comprehensive list, but it's some of the most popular ones. So here's the deal. This study that Rodney brought to all of our attentions shows that fipronil has some pretty serious side effects. Okay, this particular study was just looking at the emotional and cognitive side effects that fipronil has on our pets. And it found that when you, whether you use it topically, that's one of the most popular ways of using fipronil is a topical treatment. So you would put it like, it's a liquid capsule that you would put between your dog's or cat's shoulder blades. That when you do that dose of whatever it is, let's say it's Frontline, it travels through the dermal system, the skin, right? It also resides in, and because these drugs are designed to stay in the body to continue to keep parasites away. So they reside in and go through the adipose tissue, the testes, the liver, the adrenal glands, the kidneys, the spleen, the heart, the olfactory bulbs, which is the nose, the cerebellum, which is the brain, and of course the dermal layer, which is skin. So literally they're everywhere in your pet's body. They are affecting every major organ, the brain, everything in your pet's body. And what they're finding is that some of these side effects, because they're getting to your pet's brain, include stress, anxiety, and fear. But they're also altering the neurotransmitters of our pets' brains. So they're affecting the dopamine and serotonin levels in your pet's brain. Sorry, I've got like stuff popping up everywhere. So they're affecting the levels of dopamine and serotonin in your pet's brain, which is a pretty serious issue. And this can cause, again, anxiety, stress, learning disorders, sleeping disorders, even lack of motivation in your pet. So all of these things are contributing factors to the insecticides that we're using on our pets. Now, previous research that has been done on fipronil found already that it's affecting the GABA receptors in the brain, which is a huge deal because that's actually how it attacks the pests, the fleas and ticks, is by interrupting the GABA receptors in their brain. And previously, it was, fipronil was sold as Oh yeah, it affects these pests, but it doesn't affect your pets. But we know now through scientific research that it absolutely does affect our pets. So JR, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you being here. And if you have any questions, let me know. Kim, the chilling cat, that's a fun name. So I guess you have a YouTube for your cat. Thank you so much for being here as well. I see a few people have jumped in here. Please go ahead and post in the chat. Let me know why you're here. Let me know about your pets. Let me know any questions that you have about flea or tick medications or anything else to do with your pets, and I'd be happy to answer that for you. Even if you're watching a recording of this, go ahead and post and let me know about you and your pets and any questions that you may have, or even comments that you have on what we're talking about today. I would very much appreciate that. I really want this to be like as interactive as possible. That's why I come on here live, to talk to you guys, not at you guys. So, okay, so let's get back to this. We also know, in fact, earlier this year in 2021, another scientific study was published over in England. They tested the waters, the riverways that they have over in England, and 99% of the samples that they tested in their waterways contain fipronil, because it's running off of and residue from our pets. And that has pretty serious implications in the quality of water, the wildlife living in the water. I mean, it's poisoning our waterways. So environmentalists, of course, are very concerned about and not just that it exists. They found it in the waterways, but they found it at like insane levels above what is considered safe, right? Which, toxins and pesticides, like, really, they're not safe. But anyway, and then I think along that same line, environmentalists have studied and found that just one tiny little application of a fipronil flea treatment has the ability to kill 60 million bees, which obviously is devastating. I don't know, like, how the ecosystem would survive without bees. In fact, you remove one animal from an ecosystem, like they did in, was it Yellowstone, I think? They removed the wolves, and the entire park just dried up to, like, all of the animals left. There was nothing left. And when they reintroduced the wolves, I think they were gray wolves, the entire ecosystem came back and started flourishing. Like, I can't imagine, like, bees play such an important role in our ecosystem. So naturally, JR says, our dog only eats a raw diet. That is correct. She, except for some treats that she gets, she definitely does eat a raw diet. And we don't put any of these flea or tick toxins, chemicals, poisons on her as well. And the reason that I've been so incredibly interested in doing so much research on flea and tick prevention as well as heartworm prevention is because we're getting ready to move, as I told you at the beginning of this video, we're getting ready to move to Texas. And the environment in Texas is much, it's a lot easier for these bugs to live in Texas, these parasites. So they, it's a very warm and much more humid environment as well. So I have been doing a ton of research to make sure that we are going to be doing everything possible and naturally to keep Kim safe and to keep these pests out of our home as well. So that's why I've been doing so many videos like this lately. And I've done some on heartworm as well. So if you have any questions, and post it on Patreon. In fact, anything I talk about on YouTube, I go into more detail about on Patreon because it's so much easier to go into detail on Patreon. I can provide you a ton of links and studies, and there's just so much more than I can provide to you on Patreon. So if you're not already following me on Patreon, I highly recommend you do so. The link to Patreon is in the description. So the natural question, I think, from all of the information that I just provided to you about Fipronil, which is literally just scratching the surface. Well, what else is there on the market? Surely there are other flea and tick medications that don't contain Fipronil, and you're absolutely right. There are other flea and tick medications. And the pesticide that is used in these other flea and tick medications is called, I'm gonna try to say this because it's a funky word, isoxazoline. Something, yeah, isoxazoline. And we know that isoxazoline has some pretty darn serious side effects. And I say side effects because I am a science major, and I majored in psychology, which is a science. So we have to take a lot of science classes. And one thing that I learned that really has stuck with me is that side effects are just effects of the drug that the drug manufacturer doesn't want you to focus on. So I really hate the term side effects, and anytime I say it, I put side in quotations because side effects are effects of the drug that the manufacturer of said drug doesn't want you to focus in on. So isoxazoline, hopefully I'm saying that right, has some pretty serious side effects, including seizures, a lot of seizures, and quite a lot of deaths as well. And so I actually, in my post on Patreon, sent you to a link to Dr. Judy Morgan's blog because she actually requested the information using the Freedom of Information Act from both the FDA, which is the USA oversight body, and the EMA, which is the equivalent of the FDA in Europe. And she requested all of the information as far as adverse side effects from these isoxazoline products. So, like I said, Fipronil is one of the primary, most popular pesticides used. Isoxazoline is another one. And let's talk about some of the most popular flea and tick medications using isoxazoline. These are Bravecto, Credelio, NexGard, Simparica, and Revolution. So here's the deal. Pesticides are designed to attack the pests, fleas and ticks in this instance, in a manner that they stop breathing, basically, because their body function, it attacks the brain, the GABA receptors, and their brain stops telling the body to breathe. So they essentially suffocate and die. And that is considered a neurotoxin. Excuse me for 1 second, guys. Oh, okay, so allergies are getting to me today. Sorry about that. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Where these neurotoxins, which are pesticides, are neurotoxins. And some of the side effects of neurotoxins include paralysis or weakness of the limbs, tingling, numbness, and other sensations of the limbs, headache, loss of vision, cognitive dysfunction, and memory loss. Of course, we talked about that earlier. Obsessive and or compulsive behaviors, sometimes uncontrollable, behavioral problems, depression, poor circulation in the body, imbalance. So if maybe you've given your dog a flea or tick medication in the past and then you've noticed within a few hours or a day or two that they're like kind of wobbly, and it's not funny. It's actually those neurotoxins attacking your dog's brain. Flu-like symptoms. And then, of course, seizure and death have also been reported. So these are serious, serious, serious effects of these drugs that are being used. And for me, I don't think it's worth it. I just don't. I think there are so many other things that we can do to manage these pests in our environment and on our pets. And, the risk-reward system is seriously out of balance here. So I'd love to know from you guys, what you think, what you're doing for pest control. Like I said, I don't want to completely rehash all of the natural ways that you can go about pest control, because we talked about that 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's also on my Patreon, which is really super easy to access. You can just click the first link in the description, or if you go to patreon.com, you can search my name, Jessica Fisher, and you can find me that way. So another thing that I just really quickly wanted to bring up, and I don't want to make this video too terribly long. So also on Patreon, I included a link because the video that Rodney Habib put up, he and Dr. Karen Becker created a PDF for him to give out that if you have used flea or tick medication in the past, there are ways to help your dog's or cat to detox their body. And so that PDF is available on their website. I put the link on my Patreon post today, as well as all the links to Rodney's video, to all of the studies that I talked about today, links to the FDA warnings that have been issued about these flea and tick medications, as well as the USDA warnings that have been issued about flea and tick medications. They are all linked on today's Patreon post. Also, Dr. Judy Morgan's blog, where she contacted the FDA and the EMA, which is over in Europe, to get all of the reports of adverse effects on isoxazoline. And her blog is actually really interesting because she's talking about the discrepancies in reporting and how these pharmaceutical companies in the U.S. are actually intervening in the FDA's reporting. So that is just incredibly interesting. I would definitely recommend you checking her blog out on that. So overall, what I want to leave you with today is the fact that these pesticides, are not only attacking the pests, right? They're also attacking our dog and cat. That if we, whether we're using something topical or an oral treatment or even, a collar, the pesticides, our dogs and cats are not immune from these toxins that are being used. So I really hope that you take all of this information into account, really think it over, do your own research. Like I said, I put all of the links that everything I talked about today. There are a ton of links in today's Patreon post, so you can just check the first link in the description, click that, go over to my Patreon, and join there, and you'll get all of the links to everything I talked about today, as well as a link to the Vital Animal podcast. So it was actually this past week, so it's every Tuesday that his podcast comes out, and Dr. Will Falconer. And this past Tuesday, the podcast came out with Dr. Falconer talking to Stephanie Boone, who is the founder and CEO of Wonderside. So she talks all about what happened to her dog, Luna, and that, the veterinarians were suggesting that she put her dog to sleep, and she just wasn't going to accept that. Oh, excuse me. I told you my allergies are just going crazy today. Ooh. So she just was not going to accept that, and long story short, Wonderside was born. So there's so much out there. There's so much more that we can be doing naturally for our pets, and I really want you to think about that. The next time, even the next time you go to your veterinarian, I think our veterinarians are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people in general. And what I would say is that how I utilize veterinary services has changed drastically over the years. 10, 15 years ago, I went into my veterinarian and I did literally everything she told me to do and bought everything she told me to buy. Today, I go to my veterinarian for what they know how to do, right? For diagnostics, for lab work. And I take that information from her and I say, thank you so much for helping me as part of my pet's healthcare team. I'm going to take this information and figure out what the next step is. Now, of course, your vet is going to recommend things to you, and we want our vet to recommend things to us, but we should never feel pressured into doing what our vet is recommending, because it may not always be the best thing for our pets. So thank them for their service. Thank them for what they know best, which is, running labs and diagnostics, because they have a ton of medical training that I don't have, and I appreciate that they do. And take that information and start doing your own research. Of course, emergency situations are different. They just are. But that's why we have to be ahead of the game. We have to start our research today before an emergency happens, right? We have to start now. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for taking a little bit of time on your Sunday to hang out with me and for being here. And I really, really hope that this put a little bug in your head, because not only are we harming our pets with what we think is medicine, it's not. We're harming the environment. Like, we have to do something now to stop further progression of what is happening. So think about it, like, calm yourself and like meditate on it or pray on it or whatever you do and really think on it. I really hope you do. Thank you so much for being here. As always, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the replay later on, if you have any comments or questions, please post them. I get back to every comment and every question on my YouTube channel. And for more information on today's topic, as well as all of the links to everything we discussed today, check out my Patreon. The link is the first link in the description of this video. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys later. Bye.